Welcome back to I Think You're Muted, where we're all about helping you amplify your voice and lead with confidence. I'm Dr. Stephanie Dean, and today we're diving into a topic that can elevate your professional presence: how to make an instant impact in meetings. This isn't just about speaking louder or more often, it's about making sure every word you say carries weight and resonates with your audience. Welcome to I Think You're Muted, the podcast empowering professional women to step up, speak out, and be heard. I'm Dr. Stephanie Dean, and after hearing I think you're muted one too many times in meetings, I realized many of us are living our lives on mute. Your voice is your most powerful tool, and in each episode, you'll get the strategies and stories to help you find it, overcome challenges, and lead with confidence. Ready to turn up the volume on your impact? Let's dive in. Now, I want you to think about your last meeting. How did you feel walking into that room, or even just clicking Join Meeting on Zoom? Were you confident that your voice would be heard? Or did you feel like you might be overlooked? Or did you just not even want to turn on your camera? Today, we're going to explore how to flip that script and ensure that you walk into any room with the confidence that your voice will not only be heard, but will matter. Whether it's a quick team huddle or high-stakes board meeting, how you show up and contribute can make all the difference. And that's exactly what we're focusing on today: how to ensure when you speak up, it counts. So grab a notebook because you're going to want to take notes on this one. Let's start with the power of presence. Presence isn't just about physically being in the room. It's about the energy you bring with you. Have you ever noticed how some people walk in the room and instantly command attention while others barely get a word in? That's the power of presence at work. It's the way you carry yourself, the subtle clues you give off, and the confidence that you exude even before you say a word. As Amy Cuddy, social psychologist and author of The Presence, Bringing Your Boldest Self to Your Biggest Challenges, highly recommend, says, presence is about being attuned to and able to comfortably express your true thoughts, feelings, and values and potential. When you cultivate presence, you're not just physically showing up, you're fully engaging in the moment, and that's something others will notice. Okay, so I want you to imagine two scenarios. In the first, you walk into a meeting hunched over, avoiding eye contact, and sitting in a corner. In the second, you walk in with your head held high, shoulders back, and you take a seat at the table. Even without saying a word, the energy you bring to each scenario is completely different, and trust me, others can feel it. Okay, so you might be thinking, that's great and all, but I knew that already. What I don't know is how to do it, right? You've identified who's got it and who doesn't in the meeting, but how do you do it? Well, that involves being aware of your body language, actively listening, and using pauses to your advantage. So let's talk about body language first. This is one of the easiest ways to boost your presence, but it's often overlooked. Imagine walking into a meeting. You're slouched, your eyes are down, maybe you're playing with your phone. Or are you standing tall, shoulders back, making eye contact, talking to people as you come in the room? These small shifts can dramatically change how others perceive you. And now get this, and even how you perceive yourself. So think of body language as a silent communicator that sets the stage before you even say a word. Those linguists in the room have a word for it. It's extra-linguistic cues. So Amy Cuddy, who is a social psychologist, and she's known for her work on power poses, highlights that our nonverbals govern how we think and how we feel about ourselves. Okay, so I'm going to say that again. Our nonverbals govern how we think and feel about ourselves. It's not always about how others are perceiving you, but it's also about how you are perceiving yourself. So by adopting a confident posture, standing tall, making eye contact, using open gestures, you're not just tricking others into seeing you as confident. You're actually starting to feel more confident about yourself. It's not about tricking others. I don't even like that word because that's not what you're doing. It's a feedback loop. You're feeling more confident about yourself. People see that, they perceive that, and they see you as confident as well. Your body tells your mind, I've got this, and your mind starts to believe it. It may not at first. It's like a muscle. It's going to take time to get there. So here's something you can try right now. Whether you're sitting or standing, roll your shoulders back and lift your chin slightly. Notice how that small adjustment feels. So the next time you're in a meeting, I want you to walk in with that same posture. You're going to be amazed at how the shift not only shifts your energy, but the energy in the room. Okay, so let's talk about listening. This is a skill that's deceptively simple, but incredibly powerful. We often think that presence is all about how we speak, right? but it's equally about how we listen. So you've probably heard of the book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, Stephen Covey. He famously said it best. Most people do not listen with the intent to understand, but they listen with the intent to reply. And as someone who is like ADHD to the max, I know it. I'm raising my hand here. I know how difficult this can be because your mind is working really fast. You feel like you know what they're about to say and you just want to reply and participate in that conversation. Let's be real. We've all been guilty of this, right? We're so busy thinking about what we're going to say next, we miss what's being said right now. But what if we approach this differently? What if, instead of just waiting for our turn to speak, we really tuned into the person talking, nodding, making eye contact, giving small verbal acknowledgments like, I see, or that's interesting. These are all signals that you're fully engaged. And when you show that level of engagement, people notice. They feel heard, which in turn makes them more receptive to hearing from you. It's this feedback loop. It's this give and take. Okay, so let's make this actionable. In your next meeting, pick one person, just one person to focus on completely. Don't make it weird. Listen to them without planning your next response. Just absorb what they're saying. Then, before you reply, take a beat, take a moment, and reflect on their words. This practice not only improves your presence, but also deepens your connection with others. So speaking of that, pausing, let's talk about the power of the pause. Let me just tell you, pausing is like a secret weapon in communication. It's so simple, but it's so effective. When you pause before speaking, you're doing more than just collecting your thoughts. You're signaling to everyone in the room that you're about to say something maybe worth listening to. So Mark Twain, you guys know Mark Twain, the legendary author and humorist, he said, the right word may be effective, but no word was ever more effective as the rightly timed pause. And that is so true. Now think about that for a moment. We often feel the need to fill every silence, but those quiet moments can actually add weight to your words. It's like hitting the pause button on a movie right before the big reveal. Everyone leans in, wondering what's going to happen next. So try this out. The next time you're about to speak in a meeting, take a breath, pause, and for just a second longer than it feels comfortable, let that silence hang in the air. You'll find that not only does it give you time to gather your thoughts, but it also draws your listeners in. They'll be more focused on what you're about to say because the pause signals, hey, maybe something important is about to come. Okay, now think about your body language, listening and pausing as the trifecta of presence. I want you to practice these tips consciously, and you're going to notice a shift not only in how others perceive you, but in how you perceive yourself. It's practicing, right? Presence isn't just something that you have or you don't have. It's something you can cultivate, which is so exciting. One meeting at a time. But presence isn't just about the external, what you do with your body and your words. It's also deeply connected to your internal state, to what's happening in your mind before you even step in that room. That's why managing your inner dialogue is just as crucial as mastering your outward behaviors. To truly command the room, it's important to walk in with the right mindset. Instead, try a quick mental reset before you walk in. Remind yourself of your value, your expertise, and your unique perspective. If you have to say it to yourself, if you need to write it down in your planner and then read it to yourself before you walk in, this simple shift can drastically alter how you're perceived. Okay, now we've talked about presence. Let's move on to the content of your contributions, what you actually say, because let's be honest, not every moment is the right moment to speak up. I'm going to say that one more time for the people in the back. Not every moment is the right moment to speak up. The key to making your voice matter is knowing when and how to contribute strategically. So think about strategic speaking like, playing chess. Every move you make should be deliberate, should be timed, should be purposeful. You're not just speaking to fill the silence, you're speaking to steer the conversation, to add value, or to provide insight that others might overlook. So executive coach and author Marshall Goldsmith once said, "What got you here is not going to get you there." And this is especially true in meetings. What worked in one conversation, it may not work in another. Can we say, let's go back to that active listening? That's why it's crucial to adapt your strategy, always considering the specific context to each meeting. And this is going to take practice, right? You're not going to be able to listen to this podcast and go in and just kill your next meeting. That's why I say start small. Start small. You're going to get there, but it's going to take practice. One of the most effective ways to adapt and to learn this is through strategic speaking. It's not about just contributing to the conversation. It's about knowing when and how to insert your voice to add the most value. Being strategic in your speaking can ensure that your contributions are impactful and aligned with the goals of the meeting. So let's explore some practical tips on how to effectively use timing, content, and questions. You see why I said get a notebook? There's a lot in this one. Okay, so timing. Timing can be everything. If you jump in too soon, you might derail a conversation or step on someone else's point. But if you wait too long, the moment might pass you by. So John Maxwell, who's a leadership expert, advises timing is the only difference between success and failure. A good strategy is to listen carefully and look for the gaps or the moments when the conversation is either veering off track or when an important point hasn't yet been addressed. This is your cue to step in. This is when you start identifying these moments. And we're going to talk about that in later episodes. So let's turn to content. What you say is just as important as when you say it, right? Focus on making your points clear, concise, and relevant to the goals of the meeting. If you're not sure what to say, think about the bigger picture. How does your point tie into the broader objectives of the discussion? That's why you prepare for these meetings. So by linking your comments to the meeting's purpose, you demonstrate that you're not just speaking for the sake of it, because that's annoying. You're driving the conversation forward. You're adding value. My favorite author, Simon Sinek, who reminds us people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. If you have not gone and watched his TED Talk, I highly, highly recommend it. I used to show it in my classes all the time. So what you do simply proves what you believe, right? That means when you communicate your ideas, it's crucial to connect them to your underlying purpose or your why. By doing so, you're not just sharing information, you're engaging others on a deeper level. You're inspiring them to connect with the meaning behind your words. Now, this approach ensures that your contributions resonate and make them more impactful and memorable. Okay, so moving on. Now, when it comes to questions, sometimes asking a thoughtful question can be more powerful than making a statement. A well-placed question can clarify the conversation, it can reveal gaps in the discussion, or it can even invite others to explore a new angle that they hadn't thought about yet. This not only contributes to the meaning in a meaningful way, but it also positions you as someone who thinks deeply and strategically. So Peter Drucker, who's often hailed as the father of modern management, said, "The most serious mistakes are not being made as a result of wrong answers. The truly dangerous thing is asking the wrong questions." Right? So let's ensure that we're asking the right ones. Okay, so we've seen asking the right questions in a meeting can be a game changer, but it's not just about contributing to the conversation, it's about steering it in a direction that brings clarity, that sparks innovation, and demonstrates your ability to think strategically. So mastering the skill takes practice and a little bit of guidance. So I've actually created a resource for you. It's called Mastering the Art of Asking the Right Questions in Meetings. I know, it's a long title. This guide is packed with practical tips, examples, exercises to help you craft questions that truly make an impact. So whether you're looking to clarify a point, if you want to probe deeper into a discussion, or challenge the status quo, this resource will equip you with the tools you need to do that with confidence. So it's free. To get your free copy, just head over to Corvidi Design, that's Corvidi Design, corvididesign.com/questions, and download it today. Totes free. And remember, the next time you're in a meeting, don't just be a participant. Be a leader by asking the right questions. Your voice does matter, and with the right questions, you can make sure that it's heard in the most powerful way possible. So for this week's homework, I want you to practice strategic speaking. Start by setting a small goal for yourself. Remember, we're building a muscle. Start small, work up. Maybe it's to contribute one thoughtful question or to link your point back to the meeting's objectives. Reflect on how it changes the dynamic of the conversation and how others then respond to you. So the last piece of the puzzle is leveraging your unique strengths. Everyone has something special they bring to the table, whether it's a knack for big picture thinking, an eye for detail, a talent for connecting ideas in new ways. These are all super important. And it takes all of these different ideas and abilities to weave together this gorgeous, tapestry of moving on to the next thing. The trick is to recognize that you're good at it and use it to your advantage. So Tom Rath, who's the author of StrengthsFinders 2.0, says you cannot be anything you want to be, which kind of is disappointing, right? But you can be a lot more of who you already are. And this is where the coolness happens. This insight is crucial when it comes to making an impact in meetings. So instead of trying to emulate others, focus on what makes you unique. So let's say you're someone who's great at seeing the big picture. When you're in a meeting, you can use that strength to connect the dots, to highlight how different ideas or suggestions fit together into a cohesive whole. This not only adds value to the discussion, but also demonstrates your ability to think strategically. Okay, again, you're probably thinking to yourself, that's great advice, right? But how do we do this? I mean, you can say the benefits all day, but how? Tell me how. Okay, you need to identify your strengths and then you need to play to them. So, identifying your strengths is a critical step in making your voice matter in meetings. Again, are you someone who excels at spotting errors or inconsistencies? Or maybe are you great at summarizing complex ideas in a way that's easy for others to understand? By the way, that's a really hard thing to do. Once you know what you do best, you can bring that to the forefront and make your contributions even more impactful. But how do you go about identifying and leveraging these strengths? I've got some actionable tips for you to help you get started. And I feel like this could be its own episode, but let me give you a few tips to get you started. Okay, so let's start with self-assessment. Let's take some time for that. What tasks or activities do you naturally excel at? Now, I want you to think about ideas and areas where you've received positive feedback or you've constantly delivered strong results, right? Playing to your strengths. So over the next week, jot down moments where you felt confident and successful in your work. Look for patterns. These could be key indicators of your strengths. Seek feedback. Okay, this is cringe. You're going to cringe at this. I have recently done this while building up these podcasts, and it was so uncomfortable to ask. I wrote to my friends, I wrote to my colleagues, and I'm like, hey, can you give me some feedback on what you think my top 3 strengths are? The feedback, though, that I got was really interesting and really insightful. And this is not meant to blow up your head or make your head too big. You're not trying to walk your ego behind you on a leash with this. What you are trying to do is see how others see you, because the way you see yourself and the way others see you, that may not be the same thing. And that's actually what I found on mine. I read some of them and I was like, because you get 3 or 5 different people writing this back to you and you're like, I see some patterns here. Interesting. So sometimes others can see our strengths more clearly than we can. Reach out to that trusted colleague, reach out to that mentor, reach out to your supervisor and ask them what they think you do best. A fresh perspective can provide you some valuable insights. Try sending a quick email. Maybe don't sound as much like a bot like I did. Or if you do, write back to them and say, hey, that was a little embarrassing for me to ask, but this is why I'm doing it. This is an exercise that I'm working on through a class or through a podcast, whatever. And then have a casual conversation to gather that feedback. Okay. So now that we're done with the cringe, let's reflect on past successes. Think about projects or tasks where you were particularly effective. What skills or what qualities did you rely on? Write down 3 examples and identify what specific strengths contributed to your success. This reflection can help you understand what you naturally bring to the table, because sometimes it's hard to look back and remember, right? Or consider taking a formal strengths assessment like the Clifton Strengths to gather deeper insights into your top strengths. If you haven't already done this, it's a great investment in understanding what makes you unique. Once you have your results, spend some time reflecting. How can you apply these strengths to your meetings, to your projects, to your work life? And again, I've mentioned this in your homework every week. Practice in low-stakes situations. To build your confidence, start practicing your strengths in low-pressure situations. This could be during an informal team discussion or brainstorming session. For example, if you're great at summarizing ideas, volunteer to recap the discussion or to clarify key points in your next meeting. This practice helps you refine your strength in a supportive environment with these low-stakes situations. You can also set a strength-based goal. So if you set a specific goal for how you leverage your strengths in your next meeting or project, I don't know, maybe you'll use your analytical skills to spot a potential issue, or your communication skills to explain complex ideas more clearly. Again, super hard one. Write down your strength-based goal, the one you want to achieve, and afterward, reflect on how using that strength impacted the outcome. And finally, create a strength inventory, a one-page document that lists your top strengths, along with an example of how you successfully applied them in the past. Keep this inventory handy as a confidence booster and a guide before your next meeting. It's a quick reminder of what you're capable of and how you can bring your best self to every situation. So by taking these steps to identify and leverage your strengths, you'll not only enhance your own performance, but you're going to make a more meaningful impact in your meetings. Remember, your strengths are your unique contribution. You want to embrace them and you want to weave them together with the rest of the people in the meeting to create this gorgeous tapestry of effectiveness. You want to let them shine. Wow, that was a packed episode. You guys still with me? So let's recap. Making an impact in meetings isn't just about speaking up. It's about speaking strategically, with confidence, and with presence. When you combine those elements, your contributions become more valuable, they become more memorable, and they become more impactful. So as we wrap up today's episodes, I want to leave you with this thought. Your voice is one of your most powerful tools. When you use it with intention, when you combine presence and strategy and your unique strengths, you can shape conversations and drive meaningful change. And don't forget to pick up that free resource. If you need a little help with those strategic questions, go to corvididesign.com/questions and you'll be able to find it. So if you're enjoying this podcast, be sure to subscribe and share it with a friend and leave a review. Your support helps us empower more women to unlock their voices and lead with confidence. Until next time, remember, your voice matters and the world needs to hear from you. Thank you.